Welcome to Thinking Tackle. It's spring and we're at the absolutely beautiful lakeside fishery near the village of Shillinglee, which is on the Sussex-Surrey border. This really is my kind of carp lake. I'm here with my great friend Mark Bryant and we're going to have a go at catching some of these belting fish from this fabulous day-ticket water. It's got absolutely everything you could ever wish for. Huge overhanging trees, dark moody rhododendron bushes, carpy little passageways, and it's even got its own mossy little boathouse. This is carpy perfection. We're certainly in no hurry. We want to spend some time looking for fish rather than setting up in the first tasty swim. And let's be honest, as you walk around this picturesque old lake, every swim you walk into looks absolutely amazing. Well, two pairs of eyes is always going to be better than one, so Mark and I head off together and we spend a good hour to an hour and a half scoping around the lake looking for fish before heading back to the car park to talk through a plan of attack.
We're back at the van now. What sort of tactics do you want to employ?
Well, I think we've dropped a little bit of bait into certain areas, and I think we keep an eye on those. But first and foremost, when I get to any lake, no matter where it is, if it's got past form for floater fishing or not, I'll always go around. If the sun's out and I can see fish, I'll have a go for them on top. So I think it'd be prudent to go around with a bucket, put a few mixers out, see what the reaction is. If there's an opportunity straight away, let's capitalise on it.
Why floater fishing?
Floater fishing, for me, it's the most exciting form of fishing. You're watching your quarry, you can see reactions very, very quickly, but fundamentally you can make a very, very quick situation happen just from going around, walking around, putting some mixers in. I've caught plenty of fish within the first minute or two, turning up to a new venue, got a few fish feeding.
As quick as that. So you could pay your day to get, let's say, on this venue, I think it's 12 quid for 2 rods, and just walk around with one rod and a floater rod and catch your fish and be done.
Yeah, usually the best opportunities on floaters present themselves in the first few minutes of floater fishing.
Okay, so what have you got in the bucket, Mark?
So I've got pretty much standard trout pellets, floating trout pellets there.
And these are just the floaters, you could buy those from any tackle shop, could you?
Yeah, tackle shops sell them, you can get them a number of places. Chum mixers as well, brilliant.
So straight out of the supermarket, pet food shop, right, okay,
exactly.
So that's okay.
And all I do, I try to add a little bit of liquid to that, so I put like a food-based dip on it or some oil. The oil is particularly good, it flattens the surface, so you can, especially if there's a bit of a ripple on, so you can see what's going on, so it's very visual. And then I generally add a bit of powder to that as well, so I've got something falling down through the water to draw fish up from underneath.
Okay, so you walk around with a bucket and a catapult?
Yeah, first off, catapult, bucket of mixers or trout pellets, really simple, go around, see fish, apply some bait, see what their reactions are. As we're going around, you can check other spots, so we're always looking.
And you're going to carry a rod with you?
No, I generally I'll just go around with a bucket and just see what I can get a reaction. As soon as there's a reaction or I see something developing, back and get the rod.
Get the van quick, yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, let's grab that bucket and have a walk around and see if we can't see some fish up on the top. Exciting stuff.
Without doubt, your eyes are your greatest weapon in carp fishing, and you need to help them pinpoint cruising fish with polarised glasses. These take the glare off the surface and allow you to see a little deeper. Neither of us could fish without them, and when it comes to reacting to that bite, it helps you strike that tiny little bit faster. When you're staying out for long periods in bright sunshine, these will reduce fatigue on your eyes significantly. I wear contacts, so I use the standard glasses, but Simon uses ones that sit over his normal glasses. So whether you spend 15 quid on a pair of cheap wraps or 50 quid on the more fashionable frames, it doesn't matter. But what is crucially important is they must be polarised.
Well, Mr. Bryant, you've given it a couple of hours.
Yep.
You've been quite persistent. You've fired out a fair few mixers. What have you got to report?
Unfortunately, not a lot. Although there's the odd fish in the back of the snags, taking the odd mixer right in the dense sort of foliage, nothing's come out to this area, the open water areas. Haven't seen much in the way of sort of fish cruising, so unfortunately nothing really to report back on.
For the guys watching this, where would you say, well, it's not happening on the floaters, it's time to maybe get set up for an evening's fishing on the bottom?
Well, the beauty of floater fishing, it can change in a heartbeat and there could be an opportunity, but got to be realistic, we've got to get set up really for the night. Haven't seen much, so if I haven't seen fish for a good sort of 15-20 minutes, and the weather's against us now. It's starting to cloud over, the sun's dipping in.
Yeah, it's not as bright as it was.
No, unfortunately, so yeah, I have to call it a day, but hey, that was a couple of hours spent. We could have made something happen very quickly. On this occasion we haven't, but we've only lost a couple of hours out of our session.
Yeah, so I think the plan now, probably, you fancy one of the arms going up at the top end, the shallow end of the lake.
Yeah.
I think I probably fancy it down the other end, so we might split up for this evening.
Yep.
And that covers a bit more water, doesn't it?
Yeah, we can build a bit of a picture from us and our location, so
yeah, and see if we can't get some action.
Track them down.
Sort of this evening or into the night. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first impressions of the lake is something that's just been a throwback in time of like 25-30 years. You just don't see lakes like this in this day and age, with pads, shallows, boathouses, old historic oak trees that have been here for hundreds of years, it looks like. It's just an amazing place to come and fish, to come and walk around. All the wildlife, you know, and the fishing. You get onto the fish and you've got some old gnarly fish that have been here for years. They know the score, they've been fished for a long time. There's not a huge head of fish in here. It just makes it a really interesting puzzle, trying to work out what they're doing, where they're going to end up for the morning's feeding spell, where they're going to be through the night, what they do through the day. So we've got limited time, but we've got good options in front of us. We've got shallows, we've got deep water, we've got pads, we've got snags. So hopefully over the next 24 hours we can sort of build what's going on and apply ourselves, different methods, different techniques. We might be floater fishing one minute, we might be on the bottom, really close quarter fishing, or we might be out in the middle. So yeah, set to be an exciting time, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Time to get the bait out, and I know certainly when you arrive at any new day ticket fishery, you've got your mind set on what you might use. You might have a favourite boilie or a favourite bait. I suppose my go-to bait anywhere if I'm struggling a little bit is the golden grain sweet corn, because I caught my biggest ever fish on that. So what I've done, and I think sweet corn's good on really, really silty lakes because it's a very moist bait. It doesn't suck up the smell of the sediment. So my first line of attack, which I'm going to use on the left rod, which is really shallow, I put 3 tiny pouchfuls of corn out there against the rhododendrons. It feels like it's literally that deep. So when I cast, it's splash dump, it's on the bottom in a second. But last time I was here, I did get a bite off that spot. So I'm going to fish that over, as I say, probably just a tiny handful altogether of corn. So one pop up over corn. Out here, going towards the old pontoon, I've clipped up, gone out as close as I dare. I'm going to fish it for the night, so I've got to make sure I'm confident I can keep the fish out of the snags. So I'm not fishing as far as the pontoon, but back from it a bit, maybe 1.5 meters. And I've put a couple of catapults of corn. I'm going to put a few boilies out, and what I'm going to do to combat the smell of the silt is I'm going to flatten them out a little bit like that, and then so they break but not crumb, so I can still catapult them one at a time. And then I'm going to put a bit of liquid with them and let them soak for a little bit to soak up some of that flavour. So what I'm trying to do is combat the smell of that really rancid silt. This is a silty old estate lake, as I mentioned earlier, 500 years of silt out there, so I want to make sure my bait stands out proud. So that'll be my middle rod, and then the right hand rod, which I reckon will be about 7 or 8 foot, it's going away into the deeper water. I'm going to fish that, I reckon, probably with, again, a little pop up, but I'm going to fish it over maybe sort of 30 or 40 of those baits like that. So, and I'll crack them all up, put them in there, let them have a soak round for half an hour, and then I'll just catapult them out one at a time. I'm going to try and land those pretty close to the end of the lilies. So that'll be my 3 traps for the night.
Well, this is my pitch for the night. Lovely picturesque, got lilies, got overhanging trees, really, really shallow here, but there are a few fish about, so fingers crossed they're going to stay up here for the night. So the left-hand rod, the trickiest rod, is going to go hard left up into the shallow little arm just to my left. And there's fish getting real close in, really hugging the edge almost. But to get this rod in position, I need to get in the water really, just to give myself a better angle where I can flick a bait down to them. So that's what I'm going to do, that's what's going to go out. A little low pop-up, single hook bait, maybe a few dotted over the top. Hopefully that's going to do me a bite.
Well, it's been a fascinating first day of the session. I guess we'd love to have caught a carp, but let's be honest, it is our first trip here of the year. I've fished it for 2 nights previously, and that's it. Mark's never been here, so we're learning very quickly. It would have been great to have got the fish going on floaters. Mark had a good go for a couple of hours at least. Just as we were walking back to the van, I think he got tempted again, but I finally said, come on, let's get set up for the night. Anyway, I'm set up now, and I've got my rods out. I've got 3 rods out, all on good spots. So feeling really confident. It is the most carpy lake, and just to spend 10 minutes here before it gets dark looking out across the lake is going to be magical. It's got a really carpy atmosphere, and I'm feeling very confident.
Unfortunately for me, last night I lost a very good fish on the left-hand rod. I thought that was the one that was going to go. Just sneaked up to me left-hand margin. Playing it for a little while, got in my waders because it sort of, I could feel it grating on something. And when I waded out, unfortunately, it just caught on a little branch. Although they've done a lot of tree work here, and that's great. They've took loads of branches out, so there's no snags going up there. But there's the odd rogue branch, I think, that's blown in from the winter. So it's caught up on that. Managed to get the fish back to the snag, but unfortunately the hook popped and all I was left with was a branch. So a bit gutted, but yeah, that's the way it goes. So I've got the rod back in position. There's still a few fish about, not loads. They sort of moved out of this shallow area for the night. But I do hear Mr. Scott's had a result, so I'm probably going to wind in a sec and go down and see what he's had. Aye, aye.
Hey.
Mr. Scott.
Hello, mate.
Well done, mate. You got one?
Yes!
Ooh,
Yeah.
Is it a good one?
Oh, it's okay, yeah. It's
Okay.
okay, yeah. You'll have to wait and see.
Fantastic, mate. Well done, well done.
So what I'll do, Mark, I'll get its fins flat and then I'll pass it up to you if you take the weight of the sling a little bit.
Yeah, give
And I can get out because I don't want to have a face plant into the wood chip,
No worries, dude.
and we don't want the fish to face plant on the wood chip either. Okay. Hold it flat.
You got it, mate?
Yeah, that's it flat. Okay, got it.
Crikey, that's massive. My God.
It's not a little common. Look at this. This is a proper old carp, Mark. 30 odd years ago I fished a lake below this one and there were some big ones in here at that time,
right.
And I used to look over the dam wall and think, imagine fishing that, it looked like it was the North Sea.
Oh my.
This is probably one of the fish that was living in here then. So this fish has got to be somewhere like maybe 40 to 50 years old. It's one of the original mirrors. I think there's only 3 real big ones like this. There's some big commons, but this from the mirrors. Look at that. That is a really, really old carp.
That's a proper old gnarly fish.
It is a proper Shillinglee beastie. Look at that.
Oh mate, well done.
I think it's as old as the flipping hills.
And what was the weight?
35. It was a shade over 35, but I must say I was so overexcited, shaking like a leaf
Yeah,
when I
bet
weighed
you
it. What a beautiful fish. Just to think it's roughly as old as I am, that makes it pretty old. That is a proper old fish. Look at the width of its back.
I think I might have cut your head off on
Yeah,
that
that's
one.
just about right. Cut my head off, cut the fish's tail off.
I don't want to cut your head off too much. You don't
Mark
want to cut your
Bryant
hair
sabotaging my pictures.
off. What a result. Oh mate, that's lovely.
I'm just a bit. Well, I'm sitting here feeling very, very pleased with myself. I've caught a cracking 35 pounder, and as far as I'm concerned, I could go home now. I know Mark's a desperate man now and he's working really, really hard to catch a fish for himself. While I'm sat here, I think it's a really good opportunity looking out across the lake to think a little bit about the lake construction. How was this lake formed? Well, this is what you call a barrage pond or a dammed valley. So the water course would have run from the shallow end down to what is now the dam where the cars are going back and forth. And that dam was put there to create this lake 500 years ago with the purpose of retaining water. And that water would have been for human habitation, to provide drinking water. It would have been for livestock, cattle, sheep, pigs and chickens. And also it would have been to irrigate the crops. Because you've got to remember, 500 years ago, they didn't have the luxury of running water like we do now. So these sorts of lakes, older state lakes particularly, are often very silty, and the features are pretty typical. So you have a dam at one end, which is represents where the deep water is. That's the deeper end of the valley. And then you've got these shallow arms where the ditch lines would have run in. So there's one round to my left here, where you've clearly got an old water course. It runs down into the corner of the pond, and then you've got this little bay running away, comes out to in front of me, and then round to the corner there's another one very similar. So that's sort of classic estate lake place, you know, little places. And what you tend to find on places like this, they are often silty because of their age and the mature trees. You've got a lot of leaf litter going in them. The other thing is you find that the leaves in the winter will often blow up into these little bays, and they can be really carpy, but also really, really silty. And I know when Mark was fishing, he said there's quite a lot of debris on the bottom. The area I caught my fish from last night, about 6 to 8 foot deep, on the slope going into the deeper water, seemed to be reasonably clear. Another clue to the depth possibly is where the plants are growing. So for example, I've got lilies in front of me now. Lilies like that, that's a white lily, that's not going to want to grow in maybe more than 6 or 7 foot of water, absolute tops. So it is likely that if I'm fishing to the edge of that, I might be fishing in about 6 foot of water, and there's no lilies further out into the pond at all. So that's quite a clue. They're growing in an area that seems to be about 4 foot deep, which would suit them perfectly. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a thought. If you're fishing a barrage pond, think dam at one end, deep end, shallow arms, often very, very silty. Hopefully that'll give you a few clues to catch you a few more fish.
I'd started to see less and less activity in the swim I was in, and being the fact that it was so shallow, I just thought the fish had to be somewhere else. So with that in mind, I got on my toes and I walked around the lake and had a good look and settled on an area that puts me in the main bowl. Coupled with the fact this was not too far away from where Simon had caught his fish, I thought this is an excellent shout for the last night. So as soon as I get into a new swim, I like to have a cast around just with a bare lead. Now this is crucially important to the makeup of the bottom. It's fairly clean, no weed of such, so it's perfect for my kind of rig.
Well, for me, that's been an absolutely fantastic start. Let's be honest, any day that starts with a 35-pound mirror is going to be a pretty good day. So I decided to stay put. You know, it's easy to think, well, I've got to reel in and go and look for fish around the edges, but I've let Mark get on with that today. I know he's been busily trying to catch fish for the cameras. He's feeling the pressure, so I've left him to it, and he's had nothing to report. So I think my strategy to just stay put has probably been as effective as his mobile approach. And hey ho, you know, I've had a 35-pounder from here. There's got to be a chance of another one. I'm feeling super confident. Fingers crossed for Mark. Well, look at this, absolutely fabulous. Oh, common carp. Wow, this fish is probably about as old as I am. Certainly one of the originals in the lake. I'm delighted to catch it. It's like a withered old man, all hunched up. Its belly's gone a bit concave. Certainly in its twilight years now. It's crazy to think this fish was swimming around in this lake when I was a teenager, fishing the lake next door. So chuffed. Anyway, interestingly, I caught it on the white pop-up, which I moved against the edge of the lilies. So I moved my rods around a little bit, had a reshuffle, and bang, the trusty white pop-up's done another one. There's 3 facets of this rig that make me absolutely go for it. The first is that I can change the lead and take the lead off very quickly. If I want to reel in, grab a rod and a landing net and go stalking, it's so simple with a heli-safe just to pop that lead off, put it in your pocket, and away you go. The second thing I really like is that quick change swivel that's running up and down the line. That enables me to unclip a rig, clip a different rig in a moment. Super fast, super quick. Perfect, and it's that flexibility. And thirdly, the thing I really like about this is if I catch a fish, changing the hook, putting a new hook on is done in an instant. All you have to do is just tease that supple braid up through the eye of the hook, loop it over the point of the hook, pop the hook off, put a new hook on, and away you go. So that speed is fantastic. So I'm not forever having to tie rigs. I can concentrate more on finding the fish, which for me is what it's all about. The first stage in tying this rig is to select the boom you want to use. I like the 25-pound version for the majority of my fishing. So I pull a bit of that off, normally about 18 inches. I then tie a tidy figure of 8 loop at one end of the braid. That is the loop that's going to go over your quick change link swivel crook. Once I've got that bedded down, I then select roughly how long I want that boom to be, and then I bend the stiff boom material back on itself to create like a pinched section. Once I've done that, I've got effectively the length of my boom. So for example, I might tie a 6-inch boom. That would be folded tightly at 6 inches. Once I've done that, I then take a section of supernatural, which I like to create my supple end piece. I've also used armour cord in 50-pound for that because of its durability, and also it seems to be a very flexible, soft material. So the choice is yours. Whichever supple braid you like can be used at this stage. But we'll go with 18-pound supernatural. I then cut off about 1 foot of supernatural, double it over on itself and saliva it up so it's effectively becoming one piece of material. Then I put my loop of supernatural through the bent over section of boom to create what will be my supple section. And I like to make that just a tiny bit shorter than I actually want the supple section to be at the end, because when you tease the knot down, you always gain approximately half a centimetre. So maybe go somewhere between 1 centimetre to half a centimetre shorter at this stage than you want it to be. I then take that knot, effectively pinching the 2 pieces together, and do with my supernatural 6 or 7 turns going back up the boom section. I then slightly adjust my grip and go back the other way and do 3 or 4 turns back. And then you have to take your end tags of your supernatural back through the stiff material the same direction that the loop's going. Once I've got that, I like to saliva the section up completely and then very, very gently tease it down. Getting that knot to bed down is absolutely vital. So I tease it down, pull the tag ends, pull the loops, give it a little tighten, use my fingernails just to edge the supernatural down towards the end of that loop. And over a few minutes, take your time here, there's no rush. This is a rig that you might use to catch 10 fish. Get it to tease it right down, get it really tight. Bit more saliva, give it a good pull, make sure there's no slippage. Only at that point then do I snip those tag ends. There's no need to shorten them right up at this point. Get it tidied up, and then between a couple of tools, whether you use a baiting needle or a rig tool, I'll give it a good hard pull. I want to make sure there's absolutely no room for slippage at this point. Only then do I cut those tag ends down nice and short. So now you've got your supple, flexible end section, you've got your 6-inch boom, and then you've got the loop that's going to be your attachment onto that heli safe clip or whatever you're using. Okay, so at this point you've got your maybe 3 or 4 centimetre loop of supple braided material. You've then got your knot, the Albright knot, which is connecting that supple braided material to that stiff boom material. You've got your 6-inch boom, and then you've got your little loop, which is how you're going to attach that rig to your quick change link. Okay, so next up we need to thread a Korda kicker onto that supple loop. So I do that using a baiting needle, dampen the kicker up, dampen the baiting needle so they don't catch, slide the 2 through, and very simply just pull that down onto the line. Next thing is to thread the supple braided section, get it nice and wet, and just slide it through the eye of the hook. And you're going to come from the point side upwards as if you were tying a knotless knot. You pull that through. I then thread on a tiny little micro swivel, and then the end of that loop goes over the point of the hook to pull back, and that's effectively my little if you like, D-rig section. I then push the kicker back up and onto the shank of the hook to position it as I like it to do. You could also use a bit of 1mm silicone to do the same thing at this stage. So if you wanted a slightly longer section there, then the kickers are lovely, but they're quite short. If you wanted a longer section, a bit of the old Korda 1mm silicone tubing works beautifully. Once you've done that, I like to roll a bit of putty around the Albright knot itself, which makes a nice tidy looking barrel. The amount of putty you use is significant. If I'm going to be using a balance bait, I might go for a reasonably smallish piece, but enough to make that fluorocarbon boom come crashing down on the bottom nice and hard, but not so heavy that it's thumping the bottom bait or balance bait into the floor. If you're going to use a pop-up, then obviously that little bead of putty needs to be enough to counterweight that pop-up. Then lastly, I like to pull a bit of silicone tubing over the loop at the other end. So the boom material loop, I like to pull my silicone tubing over that, and that effectively acts as my door. So once I've slipped it onto my quick link swivel, I can pull that silicone tubing down over the crook of the quick link swivel. Once you've attached your rig to the quick chain swivel on the line, you're set up to go. Next job is to pick your bait. I'm a great fan of a balanced wafter, that type of approach, something that's got a bit of buoyancy in it. It's not going to crash to the bottom like the free baits. I like to try and counteract the weight of the hook, and that works beautifully with this sort of setup because with the boom it kicks that away from the line. I also love a pop-up, and again this works beautifully. So what I'll then do is I pierce my bait, whether it's a wafter, a balance bait or a pop-up. I then thread a bit of Supernatural through that little micro swivel on the D-rig section, and then tie it off with a hair stop, and that gives me a securement. I'm really confident that isn't going to be taken off by a diving bird. That's going to take some hell of a pull, something to eat that away. And there we go, a really tidy, very versatile, highly efficient rig that's going to catch you a carp out of pretty well any lake you might dare to tackle. Well, I've had a brace of amazing looking estate lake 30-pounders. My buddy Mark over the other side has been trying hard and he's not had a chance yet. I think it's time to go around and give him a bit of moral support and possibly see if we can't do a little bit of stalking to save him the blank.
What are you doing in there, you cheeky so-and-so? Mr. Bryant, I know all about your tactics. That's my game creeping about in the bushes.
Oh mate, I just had the most exciting but frustrating hour of my
Look at the
life.
save you.
I know. But you see a few fish, you've got to have a go.
What happened?
Well, I've been walking around, as you know,
I know that. You've
quite
been
a bit.
It's been like the Le Mans.
I've been popping a bit of bait in just to this little lake here, and I see fish regularly every day. So I thought I've got to have a little go from there. Some good fish there as well.
Well, I thought it was all little ones.
No, up to sort of upper doubles, like low 20s maybe.
Definitely worth a go.
Yeah. So I thought I'd get in there, but I had a few fish over. I could see some cracking fish coming right up tight, right and stuff. Really exciting stuff, but fortunately didn't get a bite. So
It's that dodgy rig you showed me.
oh mate, tail between my legs, so I've come out battered.
Oh dear.
But hey, I heard you had one.
I did indeed, yeah. It's a fish I've got a bit of history with, and funnily enough, I have my camera right here.
Okay.
Let me show you. It's a proper old croc, a real dinosaur. A lovely, lovely one. Scroll through.
Oh wow.
Look at that, yeah.
Oh,
It's
wow, look at
completely
that.
concave at the front of its chest. It just like a real old fish. You can imagine it creeping along through the lilies.
A tiny little tail as well. Yeah.
No, it fought very well. What are you saying? It's got a tiny little tail. No, it's a lovely fish. And as I say, just like that mirror, I mean, it's 40 to 50 years old. It's an
mate.
absolute relic.
Both of them fish are older than me.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. 2 30-pounders.
Mate, you can't. That's
No,
amazing.
just we need to catch you one. We've got to make our way off now, but we might as well have a little look at a few spots as we walk.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's have a last
said,
little look.
Can change in a breath. Come on.
I hope so.
The rods that I've been using at Shillinglee are 12-foot, 2-piece, 2 3/4 pound test curve rods. They're not huge, powerful casting tools, but on a small lake like this, they're perfect for the job and a pleasure to play a fish on. The reels I'm using are Daiwa Beziers, and they're loaded with 20-pound carp line. 20-pound carp line is absolutely fantastic. It's like tow rope, and it's perfect when you're fishing a snaggy lake with lots of lilies, snags and sunken branches, and you don't have to cast miles. The two cracking old estate lake carp I've caught here at Shillinglee have both been retained for short periods of time in a tracker retention sling. I use these slings at the fish farm regularly, and I'm really confident that they are perfectly safe and healthy for the fish. Doesn't half look carpy, that scum and everything, doesn't it?
Oh mate, there's got to be a few sneaking in.
I just thought this could be Mark Bryant's last gasp monster, and it's never happened.
Oh, it was all set up for the final finale.
Anyway, it's been a good couple of nights fishing. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Mate, what a place! What a place!
Look, it is a beautiful sight, isn't it? An absolutely picturesque fishery. First day was exciting. You had a few little fish taking floaters, didn't you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't materialise. Just the odd one taking. Always going to be difficult trying to catch a fish like that. But unfortunately, the weather's been a bit against us for floater fishing.
Northerlies, didn't we? It was cold,
Shame.
and then first night.
Oh mate, amazing!
Stepping
Amazing.
Mr. Scott with a 30-pound mirror. Don't catch that many 30-pound mirrors. I was very excited about it. It was a cracking fish.
To see an old fish, a prehistoric fish like that, it's been around forever.
Certainly older than you.
Yeah, and probably you.
Probably.
Mate, to see that on the bank, it's great, you know.
Yeah.
Old fish.
And
lovely.
then you moved, obviously.
Yep.
Because you lost the fish on the first night.
Yeah, gutted about that.
At this point now, with nothing on the scorecard, you must be absolutely mortified.
I was. I thought so
and you
early
said
on.
It felt like a good one.
It was a good one. It was a good one, and I think landing that on your first night settles the nerves and everything. But I thought I'd get another chance, but it just hasn't turned out like that.
And then I did get another chance.
Oh, mate,
another 30-pounder. So yeah, I think at the start of the week we would have been pretty happy to take 2 30s.
Yeah.
It would have been ideal if it had been one each, but hey ho.
Yeah, that's it.
I think it's probably time to
Oh, mate, I'd love to
head
come
back to the van.
I'd love to come back to this place. I think if I do come back, I'll wear trainers next time for the amount of laps I've done.
I have rarely seen a hanger cover so much ground. Normally I do a bit of walking.
You
I
do?
do fairly sedentary. You've been like Usain Bolt round this pond. It's been a magnificent effort.
Oh well, it hasn't paid off this time. Sometimes you know what it's like if you keep walking around, you do stumble upon opportunities and fish, but it just hasn't happened. So gutted.
Top man.
Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, there you go. 2 cracking 30-pounders from a fantastic estate lake. Happy days.